You just got to go for it, and you got to annihilate your teammate. You got to show him who's the stronger.
Mechanical failures have been part of every championship we've ever seen. You know, they're going to happen here, there.
He's Isaac Hadjar, and he has a blatant disregard for pottery.
I sat down opposite Alain Prost and said to him, when I was telling Mr. Hadjar, I said, well, I'm very sorry that we are here together talking about the passing of the great Alain Prost. And Prost looked at me and goes, but I'm still here.
Hello everybody, welcome to this week's F1 show sponsored by Audi. Delighted to say I am joined by Jacques Villeneuve, who was with us all weekend in the Netherlands, Craig Slater, and it's a warm welcome to Callum Nicholas, former Red Bull mechanic, who joins us on the pod to discuss an eventful weekend in Holland and potentially a championship defining weekend after the failure on Lando Norris's car due to an oil leak on the chassis side. We'll come on to that in a few moments' time. The gap is now 34 points, gentlemen. Potentially, if it had continued with the 1-2 and Lando had stayed behind Oscar Piastri, it would have been 16 points. But it now is clean air. And Callum, watching from the outside, I wonder what you made of events. We said at the start we didn't want this championship to be decided by a mechanical failure. And I wonder, though, now that it's a big gap in 9 races to recover. What was your assessment of things?
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree. I said at the time when it happened, it was huge, the championship. But look, there is still a long way to go. Mechanical failures have been part of every championship we've ever seen. You know, they're going to happen here, there, on both sides. There's no doubt in my mind that, you know, throughout the rest of the season, there are still going to continue to be some issues on both sides of the garage. So whilst, like you said, you know, it's a big gap, and certainly Oscar will be happy about it, and Lando obviously unhappy about that gap that sort of emerged. But I still firmly believe there's a lot more to be said and done before the end of this championship. And there will, like I said, there will be issues on both sides. There'll be pit stops, there'll be technical issues, there'll be all sorts, there'll be bad calls. You know, it's not going to be as simple as that all the way to the end of the year, I don't think.
No, but the last McLaren failure, Jacques, was 2.5 years ago at the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. And actually, you pointed it out. You said cars, they don't break down as much as they used to, perhaps in your day, and maybe, you know, you'd expect over the course of a very long season the luck to level out. It's just reliability these days is much better than it used to be, isn't it?
Not only they don't break down, the drivers don't really go off, they don't make mistakes, they're fit, they stay focused the whole race. So you don't see really DNFs. It's very rare. We get a lot of races with 20 cars at the checkered. And that's the difference from the past where, you know, in a few seasons, they weren't even counting all the points. They were taking some races away just because of all the failures. The one that comes to mind now is Nico and Lewis. I think we discussed it was Malaysia during the championship, and that kind of changed the tide of the championship. Just one mechanical failure at the wrong time. Now there's still plenty of races to go. There's still time for Lando to catch up, but he cannot count on the failure rebalancing it out.
Yeah, I mean, picking up on that, the one between Lewis and Nico, I think might be a little bit relevant here. Is actually that start of that 2014 season. I remember Lewis broke down in the first race. He then won the next 4. And that you sort of think now that's the sort of run Lando needs to go on, needs to correct this straight away, or as soon as he can, obviously. Oscar's now 4-1 on, Simon, to win the championship. If you were to, and Lando 11-4 against, the bookies do get it wrong sometimes. If you were to put it in kind of numbers between now and the end of the year, if you forget the sprints, but if it was just Grand Prix and they were finishing 1 and 2, Lando would have to win 7 out of the last 9.
5 winners and 5 losers from the Netherlands, who started the second half of the season in style. Oscar Piastri extended his championship lead with victory in the Dutch Grand Prix, but who else left the Netherlands happy after F1 returned in Zandvoort? McLaren endured the extremes of human emotion at Zandvoort on Sunday, as one of their drivers excelled, while the other suffered the pain of a shock retirement in a chaotic Dutch Grand Prix. Lawrence Barretto picks out his winners and losers from the first race after the summer break. Winner, Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri's hopes of winning a maiden Formula One World Championship in only his third campaign took a big boost in Zandvoort as he converted a superb pole, his 5th of the season, and 7th win in 2025. The Australian was outpaced by his teammate through practice, but delivered when it mattered in qualifying and managed all the drama in the race, which included multiple restarts, to perfection. His 9th career victory ties his manager and former Red Bull racer Mark Webber's total, while it was also the first time his led from start to finish in Formula One. That success was compounded by a mechanical failure for his McLaren teammate Lando Norris, with the Australian moving 34 points clear in their near-private fight for this year's title. Loser, Lando Norris got up to speed around Zandvoort much quicker than his teammate Piastri, with the Briton coming out on top in all 3 practice sessions. But he couldn't convert that performance into pole position, which left him with a mountain to climb on Sunday given the difficulties of overtaking on the narrow Dutch track. The Briton gave it a good go, reclaiming second from reigning world champion Max Verstappen, before setting off in pursuit of Piastri. But he never got close enough to launch a proper attack, and then saw his challenge extinguished when he smelt smoke that highlighted the issue that forced his retirement. That's his first DNF since Canada, and means the momentum is firmly with his teammate with 9 Grand Prix weekends to go. Winner, Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar's sensational rookie season reached new heights in Zandvoort as he recovered from, in his words, a disaster of a Friday to secure a career-best 4th on the grid. The Frenchman then comfortably ran 4th, despite being ahead of faster cars, and then rode his luck when Norris retired to take a brilliant podium in only his 15th Grand Prix. The Racing Bulls driver becomes the 5th youngest podium finisher of all time, behind Verstappen, Lance Stroll, Kimi Antonelli and Norris, and is the youngest Frenchman to ever stand on a Formula One rostrum. The huge points haul catapults him into the top 10 in the driver standings, while Racing Bulls close the gap to Williams to 20 points in the fight for P5 in the team's championship. Loser, Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson was on course to make it a double points finish for Racing Bulls after another top 10 start, but a collision with Williams' Carlos Sainz instantly ended any hopes of adding to his tally. The New Zealander was the only Red Bull stable car not to score points on Sunday, with Verstappen second and Yuki Tsunoda ending a 7-race streak without points. It also ended his run of 2 Grands Prix in the points, and now leaves him 17 points behind Racing Bulls teammate Hadjar. Winner, Alex Albon. Alex Albon was irritated after getting booted out of qualifying, having had his outlap compromised by queuing in the pit lane to end up 15th. But his mood improved dramatically on Sunday with a stellar performance that began with him rising up 5 places at the start to run 10th. Amid the chaos around him, the Briton kept his nose clean and raced well to rise up to 5th and ensure Williams scored well enough to keep their grip on P5 in the team's championship. His 10th points finish of the season is his most in a single campaign since joining Williams in 2022, and moves him level with Mercedes' Kimi Antonelli in the Drivers' Championship. Loser, Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz rarely gets annoyed on team radio, but he was furious with the steward's decision to hand him a 10-second time penalty for colliding with Lawson when trying to pass his rival around the outside. It ruined a weekend that had been bright to start with for Sainz, with the Spaniard out-qualifying his teammate Albon to line up 9th for his first Q3 appearance since Imola way back in May. He was in great shape to finish 5th, but the collision with Lawson forced a pit stop for new tyres and a new nose, which dropped him to the back of the field and out of contention for points. That extends his pointless run in Grands Prix to 5, though he did score in that period courtesy of a strong drive to 6th in the Belgian sprint. Winner, Ollie Bearman. Ollie Bearman has driven well this season, but all too often left race weekends empty-handed. He finished 11th 4 times in a row from Canada. His chances of adding to that tally looked bleak when he qualified badly before opting to start from the pit lane after changing a host of engine components. But in running a long opening stint and then pitting under the safety car on lap 54 of 72, he used fresh tyres to pass Fernando Alonso, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Pierre Gasly, and rise up to 8th, which became 6th courtesy of Norris DNF, and Antonelli's time penalties for his collision with Charles Leclerc, and speeding in the pit lane. Loser. Kimi Antonelli recovered from a poor start to his weekend when he beached his Mercedes in the gravel after just 6 laps in Friday practice to qualify just outside the top 10 in 11 th. The Italian then raced superbly to run 6th, but a move on Leclerc, which his Ferrari